Hi, this is Amanda Dunas from the Positive Thinking Clinic. I'm going to be speaking with Tony Langford today about loss of identity. So we're going to get straight into the topic, and right at the end, if you want to know more about me or Tony, we will explain to you our websites, how to reach us, and any information that you need to know about us. I'm Amanda Dunas from the Positive Thinking Clinic. Thank you. Welcome back, Tony. Thank you for joining us again today.
My pleasure.
So, Tony, what we're going to speak about today is losing identity of oneself in a relationship and how critical that can actually be. And some people actually don't realize that they're in a relationship and all of a sudden they can actually say, I don't know who I actually am anymore, and I feel like I've lost my identity. Or at least if they don't say it, one of their friends may say it, or an outsider may notice that about them. What have you experienced in your clinic with loss of identity?
I suppose that, one of the big things is the social norm that this is my better half, my other half. And that really gets up my nose because, I'm an entire person myself and I don't need anybody else to complete me. I think it's important that we have a good awareness of who we are, our self-worth, our value, self-esteem, all those sorts of things. And it's
what happens, Tony? What happens? Okay, you're a complete person. I totally know that about you. But what happens when someone enters a relationship and loses their identity whilst they're in that relationship? That happens.
That will, it can, normally it's not an instant thing. It's an erosion, if you'd like to think about it. First of all, we have to look at where identity comes from, and identity is given to us by our parents. So, if we're the good girl, the bad boy, the smart one, the dumb one, the naughty one, the black sheep, that identity is actually given to us. We don't have an identity outside our family unit to start with. So it's important to look at where we started losing our sense of who we are. The social norm is that, we're not complete until we're in a relationship, which is really sad because people then put too much expectation and pressure on a very fragile external reference. It's like, if you're all right, I'm all right. If you're not all right, what did I do wrong? Which, as we know, is codependence. A people pleaser is another way of putting it. And it's almost like they prostitute themselves or sacrifice themselves on the altar of a relationship to make the other person happy. And, it can come in very many guises. One can be through domestic violence, when a partner will look at their partner and look them up and down and go, you're not wearing that, are you? And that slowly chips away at your own core beliefs and internal narratives. It can also, when women have children, and it's actually even, I've got some friends that are same sex, and they have, they've been married for 15 years, and one husband wanted the children, so they've got 3 boys, and even one of the husbands has taken on that female role as a woman that's had children. When you tell people you're pregnant, people stop looking at your face and start looking at your belly. They talk to the belly. Strangers will come and touch the belly. And then it's almost like we as the host of the alien creature, we start to become transparent, and it gets worse and worse. And then when we finally, we give birth, people then associate you with the name of the child. Oh, you're Joey's mum, you're Freddie's mother, or in the thing of my friends, Eddie's a father. And our identity is linked with the child, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Whereas for the male in the relationship, or the male figure, they're still Pete or Joe or whoever it is, and their identity still stands alone. And, so women can sort of almost go into it, what I think of as sleeping beauty. And then when you come into perimenopause, women start to almost wake up and go, who the hell am I? I'm not ironing his knickers anymore. And they start rebelling. And that's when women will start to fight to find their own self-worth and identity. So it's a very insidious and slow erosion.
Yeah.
It's almost like, if you put a painting in the sun, it'll slowly fade.
Yeah, that's right. I agree there. And because you're speaking of women who are pregnant, and like I've mentioned in other episodes, I'm in childcare. So I have watched women go through the second pregnancy and therefore can't get back into the workforce, which, let's just agree that working and being responsible and having your own duties to do helps keep secure your self-identity. But once you have to sacrifice and give that up because you have one child and then you have another and then you become the housewife, nothing wrong with being a housewife, but when you're just the housewife and not an individual person as well, or you become so-and-so's wife or so-and-so's husband and you lose your identity, you really become in conflict with yourself and you can experience all sorts of different moods, depression and anxiety, anger, confusion. There's all these things that come with it, and other people can notice this too. But it also happens not just as a loss of oneself, but even people who just find themselves in brand new relationships and they enter the relationships as two individual people with their own identities, and all of a sudden they try as much as possible to become one, that they don't know how to be apart anymore. That is the first sign of losing identity. So it can happen through the other extreme, like of extreme happiness as well. And friends can notice this. For example, you may say, oh, I'm not going to come out with you because I'm going to be with her or I'm going to be with him. That's not a good sign if it's done regularly and you are giving up other things, because then you lose the ability and the confidence to do things by yourself. You lose the identity that you have because you think, I can't do this without her, or I can't do this without him, or I'll ask him what he thinks, or I'll ask her what she thinks. And therefore,
but that's
what about you?
Permission, not about us. It's about asking permission. And I like what you just said there a couple of minutes ago, and it's a factor of concern for me is when someone says, I'm just a secretary, I'm just. So straight away, they're sort of like trying to hide and they're being dismissive of who they are and what they do. And if you think about, when we go to a party or, when before COVID and we used to go out to pubs and clubs, people would ask your name and then the next thing they ask you is, what do you do? So what we do in society is almost all our self-worth. And there's a really good book that I was given many, many years ago, and it's called The Bitch Rules. And it's only a small book. And what I got out of it was that, if you think about when we were growing up, little girls had their dolls or whatever, and little boys had, cowboys and Indians and guns and all that sort of stuff. Then we got a little bit older and then, we got into sports or external activities, and then we went, boing, and there was all the hormones started. So men or boys continued with their external passions, their sports, where women and their friends and had a relationship. Women, on the other hand, almost, even though we multitask really well, we can only have one passion in our life, most of us. So their relationship becomes a passion. They drop their sports, they drop their friendships. Then if the relationship doesn't work out, they turn back to their friends and pick up the sports again. So there's very few, and I'm generalizing in a great deal, the few individuals that I see that aren't like that, female type generalizing, are professional sports people or people that have a passion, like horse riders or you as a runner. People that have an external passion outside their relationship tend to have more healthy and longer lasting relationships and have a voice in that relationship than person that only has their relationship as a passion. And that's when their identity is, it's almost like you're hooked, the relationship is the hook you put your identity on. Whereas if you have an external passion, and I don't mean a sexual one, but horses, but rowing, whatever it is, that's external, it gives you something new to bring into a relationship.
And that keeps things much healthier. It's really nice when within a relationship that you keep your hobbies.
Yes.
Or you create brand new hobbies for yourself.
And women traditionally don't, or the female traditionally doesn't. If it's a heterosexual relationship and the male is more female brain wired and the woman is more male brain wired, because it is about male and female brain wiring, and there's one really easy way to tell. So if you look at my hand, see how my ring finger is longer than my pointer finger? That means I had more testosterone in utero. I'm heterosexual, and I'm all woman. However, I'm really
What am I?
You had a little bit more testosterone in utero as well. People like myself are really good at flat packs. Women that read maps, we might turn it upside down, but we're really good at reading maps. We've got very good spatial awareness. We can say, you're not going to fit that chair through that door, where that's a very male brain wired skill set. A lot of women who don't have the longer ring finger, and it's on both hands, don't have, they have more we call soft skills, those, the nurture. A male in your life that's quite sensitive and has, wants to be a preschool teacher, or isn't gay but heterosexual, and there's no judgment about, because this isn't about sexuality, it's about brain wiring. Very, very different. So if you've got a male in your life that is quite sensitive, that's quite, into those soft skills of nurturing, you might find that he had less testosterone. He's still a man, less testosterone. He's still probably heterosexual, more female brain wired.
That's interesting. I wonder how they came up with that testing.
It's science. It's actually science. There was a really good show I watched. It might have been a Michael Mosley one, the English doctor, and they actually did this. I know it was on ABC, and they did this big research in the UK, and they got all these people that, like men that were in female roles, like school teachers, women in male roles that are mechanics or engineers, those hard, like mathematicians, which is a very male dominated industry. And then they actually got them to do a flat pack. And then they did this science of, the ring finger being longer shows more testosterone in utero, even though when we're conceived, we're all female. And then the jury's out on who decides whether you're male or female. It used to be the male, now then they're disputing that. But it's hard science. So I'm just so much useless.
So for our listeners out there who can actually connect with what we're talking about today and say, okay, I feel like I've lost a little bit of my identity, or a lot, whatever it is, or hey, I don't want to fall into that category, excuse me, of losing my identity. So what tips can we say to them? My very first tip is keep a hobby or create a hobby, keep socializing, make the effort.
The relationship.
What was that?
A hobby external to the relationship, and also keep friends that are mutually, because men will always have their schoolmates or whatever, whereas women don't traditionally have a lot of long-term, childhood friendships. But it's also, one of the first things to look at, and I can remember this myself when I used to be a codependent. I was in a video store with my ex, and the kids were there, and he said, I want to get this. And it was some, blood and guts, car racing crap, deep, movie. And the kids wanted to get a movie as well. And I'm sort of standing there. And no one asked me, what do you want, Tony? So I sulked for hours because no one asked me. I didn't feel like I had the voice, and I might be rejected if I said, I'm not watching that shit. So I sat and sulked for 3 hours. Poor bugger. Like, it's just not me, poor bugger. Poor buggers that had to put up with me. So it's about recognizing if you start to not use your voice. Another really easy example to think about is, in normal life, when everybody's out at work and, you speak to your partner during the day and you say, oh, what are you going to do for lunch? And he says, oh, I don't know. Oh, well, I'm going to have Thai. And then he comes home and you say, what do you want for dinner? And he says, oh, I want Thai. And you go, oh, and you start sulking because he didn't remember that you had Thai. But instead of saying, going into that sulk, it's like, well, I had Thai for lunch. So how about we go to Caringbah? You can get Thai at there and I can get Italian across the road, and then we'll bring it home. So it's being able to use your voice and feel like, and know that you're not going to be rejected because you have an opinion as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's okay to use your voice, and it's okay for you not to agree, because if anything escalates from that, that's got nothing to do with your identity. That's got to do with communication.
Well, it is actually about identity, because if someone doesn't have a strong belief in their own self-worth and they hang their identity onto the relationship, then the communication is going to be poor and dysfunctional because there's only one person with a voice in the relationship. So yeah, it actually comes back to, if you don't feel seen and heard, then you won't use your voice. So again, you start becoming more and more transparent.
Yeah, and so communication is extremely important. Even if you feel that you've lost your identity, you do need to practice getting back into learning effective communication styles, which always the best way to travel is with assertive communication, because rather than being passive or aggressive, being assertive at all times is the right pathway to do it. And if someone's not going to communicate back with you correctly, that's actually their problem. It's not yours. So long as you do your part and you do it assertively, and there's resources to learn how to communicate assertively. So I guess with loss of identity, it comes right around. It's a lot of factors.
There's no one reason. There's multiple reasons.
Yeah, because it's multiple reasons why you feel you've lost that to begin with. You may have everything.
Don't realise that they've lost it until they're transparent and they don't feel seen or heard. And there's, in my book, there's the crappy chop. Remember the crappy chop? So how that works is that as the primary caregiver of the family will, put dinner out, and the smished up piece of pie or the burnt sausage or the crappy chop ends up on their plate, and everybody else gets a really nice piece of whatever is, but you always end up with the crappy bit. And what that does, very covertly, very insidiously, it teaches everybody in the family that you're less than. It's like, if there's enough ice cream for 4 people, but there's 5 of you, either no one gets it or everybody gets a little bit less. It's about being equal to everybody, and saying, well, no, I did this with my family when they were younger. The crappy chop went round alphabetically. So not the crappy chop, because I really like the burnt chops, but the burnt sausages, that went round to, it's like, oh, but I had it last week. Yeah, but he had it the week before, so it's your turn. And making a game out of it instead of, constantly chipping away at your identity, because we're taught, society teaches us that the primary caregiver of the family, whoever it is, mother, father, grandmother, whoever, is the one that sacrifices everything. And their sense of identity is part of that sacrifice.
That's right. What if we shift things a little bit and we say, okay, what if we notice that one of our friends, okay, he or she seems like they're losing a little bit of their self-identity. What can we, as outsiders, friends, family, whatever we are, what can we do to help this person
have a conversation.
Have a conversation. What if,
It's like, I remember you used to love netball. I remember you used to like such and such. And, you know, if you use that analogy of, you know, on a plane, if a mask falls out of the ceiling, put it on yourself first. We're going back to what I've talked about in several of our podcasts about we are all Visa debit cards, especially women. We can't give unless we put some stuff in. So, you know, you can't be the best mum or caregiver that you can be if you are emotionally depleted. So it's
that's
that
right.
having the ability to go to the gym or, you know, whatever that self-care is. One of the biggest things is saying no. You know, I don't know one mother that and I've met hundreds, thousands of them probably, that has, you know, from the age of, you know, 0 to, you know, maybe 7 years old, that they've been able to have a toilet break in private. You know, when the kids are up to about 7 or 8, that, you know, if you close the door on a kid, it's like pounding on the door, Mum, where are my socks? Mum, where are you? So it's about being able to use that really strong word of no. And there was something you said before about assertive communication. And I agree. The only problem is that men, mainly men, consider women that are assertive as ball breakers or aggressive. So it's about finding the softness, and not the femininity, but the softness of no, not no, it's no. And know that that no is going to be respected, because you've got to respect that no first. I teach the world how to treat me by the way I treat myself. If I say no, I don't get asked a second. It's not that I don't get asked a second time. I don't get questioned about my decision.
Yeah.
So
That's
it's
right.
about being confident in, if you say yes, you are confident in your yes. Don't say yes and then beat yourself up and have internal tantrums and then sulk because no one noticed you really didn't want to do it. And
And
that's, again, a lack of identity.
that confidence it's a very important aspect, because someone who's lost their self-identity, whether they
There's
realize
no
it or not,
confidence.
they have a lack of confidence. So I guess as support networks, we can be mindful of this. And if we see that someone is struggling with their own self-worth, their own self-identity, sometimes they feel they don't deserve to have a say or have a right, as they've blended themselves so far into, or invested themselves so far into one person, that they have lost their unique individuality. And I think as support people, because it's not very easy for someone on the other end to say, oh, okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll try and find my self identity again. What we need to do as support people is say, well, how about we go for a walk? Because that way it detaches them, so, and gives them responsibility to do something. Or let's go to the shops, or let's go for a cup of coffee. Let's go watch a movie, or let's go to the football. Because they
Also
find,
things like, there's things like you can, you know, with all the, you know, the like the St. George and Southern Shire Community College, you can do a little course, you know, like whether it's, hand cream making or soap making. There's things that you can do. You can invite a friend to. Oh, look, I found this really nice course. Or, Live Life, Get Active, which is a free fitness group that is available, that a lot of the councils pay for. So if you go onto livelifegetactive.com, there's all these 5 days a week outside school holidays where you can go and do a yoga class or a boxing class, or all sorts of stuff where you can meet like-minded people, and you can start figuring out. Like, most people don't realize they're in that place because it's been that slow erosion. And if someone had said to me back then, come on, you got to figure out who you are. It's like, I know who I am, and I would have got really offended and probably never spoken to that person again. So it's the softly. It's like, we used to really like such and such, or I'd started doing this. I'd really love it if you came along. Oh, I don't have time. Well, let me help you find the time. And sometimes we've got to be a guide. We've got to be invitational, not confrontational with our friends, because there, but for the grace of, God, Buddha, the universe, go I.
yeah, no, that's exactly right. I was just thinking as you were saying that, it's not just, a loss of identity within a relationship, or just because you've had kids, but what about the people who create a relationship with their work, and therefore it's just them and their job, and therefore they give up their hobbies, they don't know how to socialize with other people again? That too is a loss of identity, because all they know is what work they have to do, and that's the only thing that becomes important for them. And for
Do you
them
know what
to
that
do
is?
what?
Do you know what that is? It's actually
What?
a good looking addiction, workaholism.
Oh,
It's
yes.
actually an addiction. So it's the same as drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, however, or gym. It's considered a good looking addiction.
What if they're not addicted to it? What if,
You,
and
if
I'd say an
someone
addiction is a
work,
craving. Go on.
if they've got if their life revolves around work and they work every hour of the day, it's an addiction.
What if for them it's an escape?
It's an addiction, though. Alcohol is an escape. It's an addiction. Drugs are an escape. It's an addiction. Sex is an escape and can be an addiction. Shopping can be an escape. It's an addiction. So it might be semantics to you. However, workaholism, anything with an ism, working all the time and only thinking about work, is a one-trick pony, and it's an addiction.
I,
Interesting.
I have a different view on that. I'm
Yeah,
not,
I can
and I
see you
agree with your
struggling.
view. Yeah, with me, I'm really thinking, only because I have experienced or witnessed that it doesn't fit when it comes to loss of identity to work. I think there's clear principles as to what's addictive, what's not. Work can be addictive, yes, because of the outcomes that you get, and they thrive and they want to go back for more. So it's like their drug, and they feel low, they go to work, they achieve. I see the addictive cycle there. But what if they're using it to hide and they're not addicted to it? So let's say it's not work.
They find other ways to hide. So an addiction is something that is detrimental to your socializing, you know, that you can't, like an alcoholic will only have, like, it's, think of it, that one trick pony. So if all you do all day, every day is work and think about work, and then on weekends you're thinking about work and you don't socialize, then it's actually an addiction. If it interferes with having a good because we are social creatures, we are meant to live in society, not in isolation. So
Yeah, we need
if
connection.
someone, yeah, so if someone's working all the time and all they can talk about is work, it's about, okay, that's a factor of concern. And then you start looking at, because men, that they are doers. We are human being, men are human doing. So male brain people. So their identity is built on providing for their family. And that's how they show love. So if that's what you're talking about, it's different. I'm talking about people that, you know, go to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and are still there at 9 o'clock at night. And other people could do the job, yet they choose to just stay there because that's just, it's like that hit, that fix.
Yeah, that's a
Does that help?
fix. Yeah, that's different. That's a fix. Like, I know you and I, we can work. We can work all day. We can work every day, and it's not an addiction. And we both have our identities. I remember a time where I struggled with identity, and exactly what you said at the beginning. I had just had a kid,
Yeah.
so I had removed myself from full-time work. So I wasn't needed, and I didn't have the responsibilities, and I had to switch roles. Mind you, I'm in childcare, so I look after everyone else's kids. And there I was alone with my kid, and I didn't know it at the time, but I struggled at that time. And then I had another kid straight away. But my friends actually noticed, and
Wow. That's a good
friends, because they're in childcare too. So they noticed that I wasn't socializing really, like I was not knowing I'd let them make the decisions in the childcare centre. Like I was just, wasn't
You'd
that,
step back.
yeah. But they came and they'd forced their way into my face, into my house. and got me just into a natural rhythm again. So I was lucky. That's why it's important that people notice others when this is happening, or notice themselves, or even notice your partner to say, okay, we've done absolutely everything together. Let's bring someone else, or let's, you know, you go there, I'll go here, or whatever, or I'll leave early. Even as simple as that, to break the pattern of blending with someone. If you think you're losing your identity,
enmeshment. You remember,
yeah,
it's called enmeshment. So it's that really toxic enmeshed, like a fishing net, and it's all knotted together. And when, if you don't know where you finish and someone else starts, and that's, you know, that can be really yucky, icky.
so sometimes they even suggest, okay, you've got somewhere to go. It's okay if you leave after him or after her. It's just those small little differences that give you your own independence. Because now we're not advocating that, oh, we shouldn't be together all the time. We're talking about when one person loses their self-identity, then they lose their confidence, they lose their happiness, they become lonely, all these other traits
And
come
then
along.
they put too much pressure and expectation on the relationship and on their partner, because if they don't feel happy, then they blame their partner because their partner, you know, likes to fish, or you know, model, you know, flying drones or whatever. You know, we all need to bring some passion, some external information that we can talk about, other than, you know, the kids have drawn all over the furniture again, or, you know, it's bin night. You know, we need to be able to bring other interests, and I'm not talking about swingers clubs or bondage or anything like that, unless that's what they want to do. It's about bringing other interests into the dynamic of the relationship. You know, that your identity isn't attached to the back of the other person, and where they go, you've got to go, as like a little caboose.
And so when someone comes into my clinic and they're here and that's one of their issues, quite often I've discovered that they can't remember a time when it first started, or they started losing their identity. So what I like to do with them is have the conversation, and what were you like at this age? What were you like at that age? Get them to tell their story of when they played sport, or when they played music, or when they used to enjoy reading, or when they'd go horse riding, or when they'd go to the beach, because all these are when they had their identity, just to show that, oh, you do have identity. You've just lost your way right now. So we kind of simplify it for them so that they don't feel overwhelmed and feel that I'll never be the same again. Well, you won't be the same, but you'll find your identity and you'll be your own individual person again. And you'll still be in your happy, healthy relationship.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, because it saddens me when people say, I wish I was like it when I was 16 or whatever. And it's really sad, because when we were 16, we're all numbnuts. So I'd rather not be that person that couldn't find their behind with both hands and a flashlight. I'd rather be someone that evolves. And it doesn't matter what you know, whether you have a religious faith, or whether you're a spirit, you know, you have a spiritual faith, or, you know, the squeezy penguin is your faith. You know, all the philosophies in the world say, basically, you know, to, you know, dumb it down, be a better person when you croak than when you started. So, you know, it's all about evolving. And I was actually had a group supervision session today. Just let me grab my folder. And they were talking about, it was Buddha, actually. We were talking about inner child workshops and things. And one of the tenets of Buddhism is the life work is to heal the inner child's wounds, which is about identity.
Yeah.
You know, so if you ask clients, you know, in your family, who were you? What, you know, we all know we all have a role in our family. What role did you have? And that can help you understand where how functional their identity is. And also, if someone was always spoilt, then they have, I just had a vision of Donald Trump, that self-belief of they can do no wrong. Anything that comes out of their mouths are pearls of wisdom.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's given to us. It actually starts at the breast.
That's really interesting, and that's really useful to know as well.
Hmm.
Hypnotherapy is a really good way to give people the confidence. Well, I don't like to work with confidence, but I like to work with courage. So
Yes.
in my sessions, I like to do some tasking, and tasking can be quite difficult for people who are at the low level where they've lost their self-identity. They don't feel as strong about it as what you and I. They can't see as clearly as you and I. So they are quite vulnerable and in need of great support. And so we use hypnotherapy so that we can use their own resourceful state so they can visualize what life would look like, their ideal version of themselves, even in the future, having that resource state and seeing along the way, okay, what did I do to get there?
Mm.
And they come up with their own solutions. Yep.
Yeah, you don't turn up at an airport with a passport and some money in your pocket and go, where am I going to go today? It's about having clarity about the destination, and then what little steps can you do to start that journey of, one, self-discovery. And I think if people can get the clarity around self-discovery and be curious instead of judgmental about how they got where they are. So, because I think one of the most important things is to recognize how you got where you are, so you know this, you know the feelings of what happened. So if you feel like that again, warning, got to stop, I lost my identity last time. So being aware of how, because this is all about choice,
Yeah.
If someone looked at my belly and goes, oh, you've got a bubby, it's like, I'm here. Up here. So it's about choice. We can call people on their crap, those social norms that we allow them to get away with. This is my other half. This is my better half. I'm so much better with him or her. My life didn't start till they came along. You complete me. Well, they're factors of concern. And if I've got people in my life doing that, oh, hooly-dooly. I question it.
I was at I know this is totally off topic, but you brought it to my attention. I was at a party once, and during the speeches, the girl said, I always hear people say about their partner, you complete me. And she said to him, you completely finish me, she said to him. So it was so humorous. I mean, they're just a loving couple and all,
yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah, I believe we should all, because if you complete me, all the codependent songs, if you leave me, can I come too? Can't live if living is without you. Ooh, ooh, that sort of stuff. It really worries me, because you're expecting someone else to make you feel good about you. That's not anybody's job but self.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. I guess, is there anything else that we need to cover? I think we've covered everything when it comes to self-identity.
I'm sure over the next period of time, we'll come up with something else.
Absolutely.
And educate your listeners.
So I hope that today's listeners actually feel connected with what we said, or can add to what we said, or use any of our points as a reassurance or a means of comfort, or a new tip or idea for themselves, or a way to look out for others.
Point to their own journey of self-discovery.
Absolutely.
Even if they hear one thing and think, but it makes them think differently, then our job is done.
Yep, that's right. And it's always important to love ourselves, respect ourselves, put ourselves first. So on that note, thank you so much, Tony, for all of your wise input. You're
Always a
always so
pleasure.
entertaining. You're always so colourful with your language and your stories, and I'm very grateful.
Namaste.
All right, so I'll see you next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Okay, bye.
And a warm welcome to today's listeners. Allow me to introduce myself as the host of today's episode. My name is Amanda Dunas. I'm the founder of the Positive Thinking Clinic located at Wallow Creek, Sydney. Here at the Positive Thinking Clinic, I see clients of all ages. I see individuals, couples, families, and small groups. I conduct psychotherapy and use a variety of modalities delivered through counselling techniques and hypnotherapy. I am a professional counsellor, clinical hypnotherapist, and strategic psychotherapist. I'm an early childhood teacher and an NLP master practitioner. To learn more about what I do and what I offer, visit my website www.positivethinkingclinic.com.au. The easiest way to connect with me on social media is to search my name, Amanda Dunas, or my clinic, Positive Thinking Clinic. You may also access my social media at the bottom of my website. I am the author of My Coping Skills Handbook, aimed at kids aged to 12 years of age. I have also turned this into an online course. I have a range of podcasts that can be found on amandadunas.podbean.com. In addition to the Positive Thinking Clinic, I am the owner of 4 early learning centres. I am passionate about quality care and emotional wellness of all ages. I believe we set the foundation for emotional wellness from a very young age. My early learning centres are licensed as Positive Living Skills Services. I also have an emotional wellness and kids Facebook group. One of my greatest hobbies is learning. I think I am always enrolled in a variety of courses, no matter how small. I enjoy adding to my skill set. As an integrative therapist, I learn diverse skills and select the best fit for any situation. If you wonder if I have any other hobbies, I am also into fitness. I have run a number of marathons, including 2 ultra marathons. So that's me in a nutshell. If you want to get in touch, you can use the contact form on my website, positivethinkingclinic.com.au. I would love to hear from you. Signing out and moving forward. You're listening to Amanda Dunas. Joining us today is Tony Langford from TLC, Tony Langford Counselling, and is our Gymea-based counselling and clinical supervision service. She offers face-to-face and Zoom counselling and supervision to individuals, couples, families, and groups. Tony's passion is relationship problems and issues. She likes educating people to understand what the other person is saying and not to put their feelings or their filters and perspectives on what they think that they are hearing. The key to good or even great communication is not to be a good talker, Tony says. It's to be a good or even greater listener. Since 2005, Tony has been helping people deal with their day-to-day lives, supporting them to find better ways of communicating. She has also run emotional eating workshops through most of Southern Sydney's Curves Women's Health Centres, as well as providing clinical supervision and mentoring for counsellors and hypnotherapists, either face-to-face, Zoom or groups. Communication starts with understanding ourselves first, says Tony. If we can't understand or identify with what we want, how can anyone else understand us? Once we have that clarity, understanding what other people are saying is the next step. Communication is a gift, not a weapon, yet we are all guilty of using it to hurt and to wound. Simplifying and debunking how we all communicate, and yes, there will be generalizations, is the base of any good relationship, especially the one with ourselves. It's not rocket science, says Tony. If a dog and cat can happily live together, then why can't 2 people of the same species do the same? Why can't they get along without fighting? As a counsellor, Tony's role is to become redundant. Once someone has reconnected with their own internal strengths and coping strategies, then she says she should no longer be needed. When they have struggles in the future, they now have plans and skills to use instead of having to involve others. You can find out more about Toni Langford on www.tlc.counselling.com.au. She does face-to-face sessions at Gaimir. You can locate her at Twitter at Your Counsellor, Facebook, TLC, Toni Langford Counselling. She's done a Diploma of Holistic Counselling, Bachelor degree in Counselling, Clinical Supervision qualifications, Training and Assessment qualifications. I hope you enjoyed today's episode.